So I'm really not going to have to, wow, I'm going to have to be, okay, there we go. I can use my normal overbearing tone, which frightens small children and makes babies cry. Should I, see it? I'm not used to being filmed. Are we still good to go? Should I go back? Okay. Okay, I got stuff. Stuff coming out my ears. I got 2 Mac Pluses waiting to be turned into fish tanks. I shouldn't admit that, should I? Yeah. So, yeah, I had kids. And I don't know if you've noticed this about kids, but they take a little bit of room. But they move around and they start getting all the interesting stuff in the house. They find the lock picks and they shove them in their nose. And they find the sharp knives and they cut off fingertips. And pretty soon your wife is standing there going, this crap needs to go somewhere. Oh, I already got a couple of cars in there and I ran out of space. And then they start getting these big plastic toys. They go everywhere. And then you got grandparents. It's like, oh, the other grandparents bought Timmy a little car? Well, we'll buy him a 2-seater. Thanks, Ma. So I needed space desperately. So, okay, who am I? I said my name. My name's Jeremy Anderson. It's in the little book. I had to write my own bio. It's weird. I always thought somebody else would write those for you. I should have had more glowing praise for myself. Men want to be him, women want to be with him. But I didn't. My background is actually as a Unix guy. My first job out of college, I stumbled into it because they were programming these systems. The guy said, these run on Unix. And I said, I know Unix, or I've worked with Unix, but I'm no guru. And it was a loud room. He never heard the word no. So his next question for me was, well, what kind of Unix are you using these days? So I answered with what I thought would be a reasonable reply to that. I don't know, I haven't checked. And he looked at me and he thought, wow, this guy's either completely full of crap or he's the smartest guy I've ever seen. Well, he was right with the first one, but he hired me anyway. And so I got started working with Unix systems where you can kind of get along, being somebody like me. I work with kind of everything. There's very few things I'm not willing to tackle, which means I know how to do a little bit about a lot of things. So it's very possible, if you guys have done construction, I'm going to say how to do something wrong. I might do that. But I'll tell you what, it hasn't fallen down yet. Come back to me in 50 years, and we'll get the final review. But I tell you what actually has also happened. I'm a teacher now. After a whole bunch of years in industry, I got tired of sitting in meetings where MBAs said really clever things like, for PCI compliance, we're requiring 8-letter passwords for all users. They must have 2 uppercase, 2 lowercase, 2 numeric, and 2 special characters, none of which may be adjacent. Okay, well, first of all, some of the 8 characters have to be adjacent. This is usually when I'm asked to leave the meeting. So now I get to teach system and network administration. I'll plug my school. It's Hennepin Technical College. It's out in Minnesota. Come visit us. We're insanely cheap, and we do a lot of Linux stuff there. I mean, that's one of our big selling points. $120 a credit. So, okay, I don't know if you guys know much about teachers, but we like our jobs, and we get paid like $1 an hour. We get paid $1 an hour because we love our jobs. We probably do it for 50 cents. Don't tell them. But my garage had a big problem. The guy before me was an automotive body guy. You ever worked with body men? They make these beautiful cars. They're heavenly. The paint is amazing. These paints that change color in the sun, and like brush your teeth, and do your hair in the reflection. Underneath it all, it's crap. I mean, it's rusty old metal. They Bondoed over it. 40 minutes after you buy it, the wheels fall off, but they're long gone. The guy did the same thing kind of with my house. He did it with the garage. He actually put a body shop in the garage for 5 years, which was fine, except he saved the good parts. Well, the good parts included a half a dozen small block Chevy engines. Big V8s, 400, 500, 600 pounds an engine. Well, those take up room. So he took this garage built in 1970 with little 2x4 rafters, and he said, hey, you know what I should do? I should hang some wood from those rafters and put the engines up there. Now, the rafters are the triangle thing, the trusses that hold the roof up. So the engines went up, And for a while, they said, I can do it. But after a while, no matter how long you say, I think I can, you can't. So they pulled apart. I knew this when I bought the house 10 years ago, and I said, in 2 years, I'll rebuild the garage. First thing I did was I put a floor jack on it. I put things together with plumber's strap. Don't laugh. The tensile strength of plumber's strap is amazing. That held for 10 years. Okay, 2 pieces snapped, but I replaced them. But the problem was there was a bow in the roof line like this. There was a 14-inch drop in the middle, which was better than when I bought it, because it was a 40-inch drop in the middle when I bought it. Now, any sane person would look at this and say, we're scraping the garage. And I talked to quite a few carpenters who are sane people. And they looked at my project and they said, you're a dumbass. Nobody in their right mind would tackle this project. It's labor intensive. It's too expensive. We won't touch it. We'll scrape it. We'll build you a new one, bigger, better. It'll make the little $6 million man sound when the door opens. I said, wow, neat. What's this going to cost? We should be able to keep it under $35,000. $35,000. That's a third of what I paid for my house. I said, really, 35? Said, well, unless you want it insulated, then we'll do it for 42. Okay, hey, I'm going to take a big old pass on that. And I started adding up parts myself. I can read. Turns out it's a useful skill. Who knew? So a lot of this stuff is written down, and I'll get to that in a minute. So the garage is falling apart. I've got a $1.35. I need to fix my garage. I got motorcycles, I got cars, I really want to put a welder in. So structural compromise, big structural compromise. And then, so I started playing around, and you look at the Menards flyer. And first thing, rule of thumb is you look at the Menards or the Home Depot flyer, double it. It's just going to cost you twice what you think it will. And I'm looking at these trusses, and I'm looking at construction, and thinking, you know what I could do? I could put a second story on. Hey, the roof is screwed, but the ground is great. The guy who put the body shop in, he insulated the walls. He put in half-inch drywall. Then he put chipboard over it so that you could run a nail or a screw anywhere. He put a household furnace in. So when it's 20 below in January, I walk in, I close my garage door, which still isn't insulated. I got single-pane windows in this thing. You can feel the wind moving through. I turn the furnace on to high, and in 30 minutes, it's 90 degrees inside. For a long time, I thought I had a cracked burner, and that's why he never ran it much, because I'd run it, and I'd get a splitting headache. Yeah, it's a sign of a cracked burner. But I'm thinking, okay, we'll run it in short bursts. Well, when we replaced the chimney, we found out it wasn't a cracked burner at all. It was a broken chimney. Cool! I have a furnace rated for about a 2,500 square foot house in a 1,000 square foot garage. It's strut around upstairs in my Speedo all winter, comfortable. So enjoy that image. So, and the other thing is just I'm stubborn. It's wrong. Everybody scrapes buildings. The ground floor is in great shape. Okay, well, it had shifted a little. And then we found out it had shifted more than we thought. But still, all this lumber. Why should I pay $30,000 to get all new stuff, then I got to pay to get rid of the old? I'm Swede, Norwegian, and German, and that means I'm stubborn and I'm not real bright, and I try to take over the world on occasion. So I decided to tackle this. And, why should you tackle a project like this yourself? Why would anybody do anything like this? Same thing, budget constraints. Big thing is quality control. The most shocking thing I learned is that building codes are the accepted minimum. When you meet code, that means it's barely good enough. I hate stuff that's barely good enough. I wanted something that somebody could back into with a truck and it would shrug it off. I mean, it won't. I can't build that well. But that was certainly the plan. And, you start running the numbers and you're like, well, for only $100 more, I can withstand a 7-foot snow load instead of a 2-foot snow load. So I'm ready for the coming ice age. And I'll tell you what, I watched the two guys, my neighbor up the alley had a new garage built. And they were starting work right as I was getting lumber delivered. And watching these two guys work, I knew, I can do at least that well. They were actually, it turns out they were a lot better than I thought. But I did do at least that well. It just took me longer. Willful over-engineering. I have I have 13 inches of insulation in the garage of my roof, the roof of my garage, which means when I park a car in the winter, it's not fully insulated, but it's already to the point when it's 40 degrees outside without running the furnace. If my wife brings the warm car in, and I'm working upstairs, in about a half an hour, it's about 70 upstairs. Which sucks because I'm insulating, fiberglass. So you itch. You take your shirt off, you itch. I have a mouse here somewhere. There we go. Can you see my 800 by 480 constraints? Yeah. So why doesn't everybody build their own stuff? I don't get it. I don't know why everybody doesn't do everything for themselves. I will never understand why someone hires Geek Squad to install Microsoft Word on their machine. First of all, they bought Word, and second of all, they let one of these Geek Squad guys in. God, hide the good silver. And take your porn off your machine, or they'll copy it. But people are afraid of screwing stuff up. It's unreal. Nobody in America tries anything anymore. You know, all of us should probably wear shirts. I void warranties. And then we should mandate legislation that you can't void a warranty just by opening something up to look at it. You don't void a warranty in your car, by putting an aftermarket oil filter on. Dude, if Ford makes an oil filter that nobody can make a competing model to, they get hit with antitrust. Wow. What a great model. So don't you need formal training? No, because if you can read and you can listen, I'm assuming you can probably listen, because you hear. Maybe you can read, because some of you are looking at the screen. If you can't read, I understand there are resources out there. Suppose, in theory, we have them at the school for the basis from some of my students. I'm not sure. But I tell you what, there are a whole bunch of carpentry books out there. They kick ass. They're the best things ever. I've read tons of documentation that sucks. You're like, I feel dumber now than I did before. Carpentry stuff isn't that way. They use little words in short, clear sentences. And they never say things like, perform the spatial transformation on the piece of engineered lumber. Take board A, hold it up to board B like this. And then there's a picture. So cool. I was looking at these books. This is incredible. There's actually, if you want to know cars, there's a military manual called The Principles of Automotive Engines, which you can get for a couple of bucks if you find one at a garage sale. It's the same thing. It's the techniques of how engines work, but pounded into a sleep-deprived guy who's just out of basic. So, and I tell you, I have two little kids. You have sleep deprivation, it screws you up. I've never slept so much as I have here. So carpentry books rule. Lots of pictures, and there's tons of them. And they all cover a lot of the same things. Neat. And the other neat thing about carpentry is it has changed very little in the last, 2,000 years. My dad's favorite quote, and I think I have it on here somewhere, is that a carpenter from the time of Christ, I don't know if you believe in the guy or not, but that's about 2,000 years ago, could walk onto a job site today, take a look at the air compressor, look at the nail gun, go bang, 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 hey, cool, and go right to work. And what other field do we have that can do that, I'm talking to computer operators who walk into a modern machine room. They've been out of work 10 years. Like, holy crap, where'd all the reel-to-reels go? Helpless. So it's really, really standardized. So one of the other things, if you can listen, you can go to a small lumberyard. And these small lumberyards, they want to sell you stuff. So you got to take it with a little grain of salt. Holy crap. Little grain of salt in that they might want to sell you more, but for the most part, they're really honest, and they'll look at your plans and they'll tell you if you're being a dumbass. I know, they told me that regularly. What are you going to put up there, a tank? They kept saying. Maybe. Okay, the only real thing you need to do, and I think everybody here probably has that, one thing you have to have the willingness to rebuild things. You're going to get to a point where you've got something that's elegant, thing, oh, it's so cool, and then I've got this piece. Where's the wrecking bar? You start taking it apart. All of this stuff, you can basically rebuild it at any point. That's really the strength of this. Okay, I lied. You need some tools. This is the basic set of tools with which I think you could survive. And you can get all this crap for under $50 at a garage sale. Some of the stuff you can make. You can make this. This is a fancy plumb bob. You use it to find out what straight up and down is. I love people like, I got a laser sight with a level. I got a string and a big washer. Which needs batteries? Want to buy some double A's? So you got your basic claw hammer here, and these come in all sorts of sizes and styles. And I tell you, talking about hammers is like talking about operating system distributions. BSD sucks. Guys are like, oh, you got the straight claw on the hammer. It doesn't matter. Pick one that you find cheap. I made the mistake. I picked a giant hammer, figuring bigger hammer hardware. I picked a 28-ounce framer. I still don't have the Popeye forearms. But what I did get was a little bit of tendonitis from using this thing. So halfway through the project, my hands were falling asleep at night, which is really weird. You can't feel anything. So pick a reasonably sized hammer, 16, 20 ounce. One thing I tell you 28 ounce is good for, it'll take anything apart. And I actually walked across the street because a couple who was passing through my neighborhood going from bus stop to bus stop, literally, on opposite ends of the block, the guy decided to punch his girlfriend and knocked her down, and nobody listens to you. Like when you're standing in combat boots and fatigue pants with a 28-ounce hammer, asking them what the Effenheimer they think they're doing in your neighborhood. And it's not a weapon because I was working in the garage. But officer, I forgot it was in my hand. This is a level, and they have these neat little bubble things so you can tell when things are right. And here's the basic rule of anything that's already been built. Nothing is straight up and down. Nothing is level. So most stuff just needs to be close enough. That this is the one new piece of technology you really need. It's a one-hand clamp. This is the coolest addition to any project in the last 2,000 years. Because otherwise you had to get one idiot to hold it, and you'd run down the little handles and clamp things together. Now this, ratchet it shut, and it holds. So you can use it to hold chunks of lumber together while you run nails or screws in. Wow, this really got pixelated. Maybe I made it a little small. This is a sawhorse. You put stuff on it to cut. Ideally, they come in pairs. This is my favorite kind because it's made out of scrap lumber. And when you're cutting things, this is wood. So you don't have to be careful of your saw blade. You set it so it just barely touches the top. You got your hand saw. This is the first tool I would replace at all these. You can get a circular saw. It's on the next slide. A chisel, because sometimes you can't saw stuff. You got to just knock a little piece off to make them fit. I made so much use of this, I would never have believed it. That the hammer and the chisel were the two things in my tool belt that I absolutely couldn't live without. I don't even have a tape measure on here because it turns out if you're really hard up on money, you take a piece of string and a magic marker and you mark the space off. String, and you can wrap it around your wrist when you're done with it. You use it as a plumb bob. Combination tool. Wow, Leatherman should make one of those. Okay, and you got a carpenter's square because you can make a right angle using your plumb bob and your level, but it's a lot easier just to have a nice metal one. And this is really handy for measuring roof angles and other angles and stairs and things. Also, get some steel-toed boots. I wore steel-toed boots religiously, which was really good when we dropped a 200-pound piece of lumber on my left foot. It didn't even dent the steel toe thing. I just needed... Bong! Hey! $80 well spent. And you're going to need a utility knife. You don't really need you need a sharp knife. Utility knives are nice because you get replaceable blades, and you're going to be going through them because you use them to cut everything. If you've dropped your chisel, you may decide to use it instead of your chisel, but that really goes through blades. Now, when I say sub $50 if you shop carefully, a really good place to get this stuff, garage sales, estate sales, Craigslist. Estate sales are grand because when guys get old and they retire, they buy really good tools, and then they drop dead a few years later. They finally get the money for like the top-of-the-line Craftsman toolbox. Yeah? How
do you find estate sales?
Newspaper.
Go to Florida.
No. Well, kind of, but it's a different crowd down there. The one.
My grandfather just did that.
Really?
Literally last year.
He moved to Florida, or he went to an estate sale in Florida?
No, his estate sale.
In Florida? Huh.
My parents and my brother and I went down to Florida. We couldn't bring all the stuff back, so
Sweet.
we had an estate sale.
Now, obviously,
There were a lot of tools in there.
yeah. And tools are heavy, so people don't want to transport them very far. Plus, most people who go to estate sales are surfing for antiques and things, you know, hammer, $1. It's like new. Well, it is new. He bought it to replace the old beat-up one that he got tired of using, and then, you know, he built 2 birdhouses and learned golf. So estate sales are good. They're usually advertised in the paper. Also, pad your time when you're driving around. You'll stumble on signs for them, and those are the best, the ones that aren't advertised. If you're anywhere near a rural area, farm auctions. Because the only people bidding against you on tools are old farmers who like nice stuff but are really cheap. I bought a box once with 8 staple guns and 12,000 staples for $20.
They thought you paid too much.
Yeah, that guy came up, oh, $20? What are you, made out of money? What are you going to do with that crap? I sell it on the black market. I don't know. I'm going to use it. Kids don't know the value of money. It's $14 for a new staple gun at Menards. Now, granted, the disclaimer on that is of those 8 staple guns, 3 were completely defective, 2 were semi-defective, and the remaining 3 failed in this project. Right, but I did use up 8 of the 12,000 staples. I'm not joking. Okay, these are the extra tools if you can spare the money. Here's a regular staple gun. These are okay and you can get them cheap, but after a while, repetitive stress injuries will get to you. And that's where I put one on here, air stapler. Oh, these are the coolest things. But you need one of these. This is a compressor. This is not the compressor I would buy. There's one that looks just like this that's a Craftsman. It's a little 2-horse. It doesn't have a tank, so everybody thinks they're crap. But they're better than the ones they put on tanks. And you can usually pick them up for $30, $40 used if you're careful. They ran this nail gun, which fires 3-inch steel nails as fast as you can go without ever slowing down. Oh, yeah, they'll go straight through your hand. That's why when you buy the framing nail gun, buy one that has paper collated nails. There's 2 ways of putting the nails together, paper and wire. When you shoot a paper one, it tears the paper off, sticks the nail in. When you shoot the wire one, it breaks the little wires, sticks it in. So when I broke the safety on mine, because I dropped it 18 feet on concrete and we needed to still use it. Well, when the safety went, it started going automatic. So you had to drop the trigger really fast. So what usually, before we figured what was really going on, I'd put 2 in next to each other and then the third one would come back at me. But it turns out when you got a 16-penny framing nail, it doesn't have a lot of velocity. It bounces off the safety glasses. Yay, exactly. Yay, safety glasses. Yeah, the wire collated ones, when it goes through your hand, the little wire things act like fish hooks, like little barbs, like an arrowhead. So what you have to do is you have to clip the head off the nail and pull it through, which most people don't think to do, so they just pull it out the other way. And then you really screw up your hand. The paper ones, you can, you freak out, you can just pull it out. Now, that said, most people intentionally disable all the safety devices on these. Don't be a poo head. Leave the safety devices. It's only going to save you a minute. And I went through this whole project, and I'm a big klutz, and I never put a nail through anything unintentionally. Tool belt, really handy. So your hammer and nails. My God, we went through, we figured out we're 65 pounds of nails into this project. And some of those nails were left over from when my dad built his house in 1970. Circular saw, if you buy none of this crap, that. For cutting a 4x8 sheet of plywood, you just want to trim 16 inches off, this is the big one. A compound miter saw is really nice for doing angles, but you don't really need it. You can do that with a handsaw. It's just slower. And an electric drill, because for putting up sheets of plywood and stuff, you can nail them. Oh, but drywall screws are great. They're $38. No, I paid $42 for 38 pounds of drywall screws at Home Depot if you buy the big box. And when you find out that things are put together wrong, you take the screws out, you move it, you put them back in. It's really hard to do with nails. And you got to get the pry bar and tear things apart. And safety goggles and hearing protection. Big deal, especially hearing protection. I have small children, my hearing's already destroyed, so I didn't a lot, but always with the safety goggles. I actually wore a hat almost all the time because you bang your head on stuff. So consider a hard hat, but everyone makes fun of you. So now about the knowledge stuff. Well, the codes you need, this is the original open source stuff. Open source construction is mandated by law. I love it. And we have 4,000 years of building codes. This is my favorite building code ever from the Code of Hammurabi. If a builder has built a house for a man and has not made his work sound, and the house he has built has fallen, caused the death of its owner, that builder shall be put to death. Yeah! Let me tell you, you don't build highway bridges that collapse when you have a clause like this. It goes on, it says, if the son of the owner dies, the son of the builder is killed. Okay, then it goes south because it says if the slave of the owner dies, you got to replace the slave. But different times, different people. Now, how would Vista be different? How would almost all our software be different if we had similar clauses? Yeah. Cool. My perfect world is a very scary place. Darth Vader has statues everywhere. So, okay, now this code stuff, it's in books, it's documented, a lot of it is online, and it's enforced by your local building inspectors, who vary in skills and intelligence. There are some extremely good building inspectors out there. There really are. I worked with some incredibly good guys in my residential construction project. All of them were retired builders. All of them were building inspectors because bad injuries had taken them out of building. That isn't true everywhere. But I tell you what, one of the guys I worked with was the nicest guy in the world. And I mentioned it to a neighbor who's working on a project. And he said, that F-wit? I can't stand that guy. I thought, well, that's funny. Because when I went to him with my plans, I showed him my plans, I said, what do you think? Do you think it's good enough? He looked at it, he said, no. Oh, how do I fix it? And he had some suggestions. Well, it turns out my neighbor, when he went to him, said, you know, I pay your money. I pay your wages. You're just some civil servant. You don't know anything. Rubber stamp my plans so I can get these built. How's that going to work? In a software code review. Mulligan. So my plans, and the plans were kind of trippy because you have to show a lot of detail. But the good news about that is you have to show almost all the important stuff in the written plans before you go, so they can catch problems before your 250 2x4s into the project. And you realize, oh, I forgot a roof. They catch that right away, and they caught some structural issues. I actually had to do 3 revisions because my original plans called for something that doesn't exist anymore. 18-foot long 2x6 boards. Good luck getting them. All the good lumber that long doesn't exist anymore. Okay, fine, you can get it. But it's going to take a firstborn child and 2 virgins and like 20 shekels of gold. I mean, you're going to pay everything for this. So I couldn't afford that. And most of the lumber yards I talked to just laughed me out of there. Your only choice is a thing called engineered lumber, which is itty-bitty pieces of wood with lots of glue and math. Turns out that math makes it better than real wood. Love math. So it took me 3 revisions. It took me 3 weeks. And I was a bonehead because I used software to draw my plans. I used software to come up with, there we go, to come up with this plan. I borrowed software from an architect friend of mine. Well, I went over to his house because we couldn't figure out how to copy it. Believe me, it was just a bear. And I made these whole plans. Turns out I spent, probably 60 hours working on this plan. What I needed was lined notebook paper, a pencil, and a ruler. That's it. Who'd have thunk? In fact, there was a guy getting his building plans back, his permit approved, and it was pages with rough edges torn out of one of his kids' notebooks for school. With a little note from the inspector, nice plans. Cool. So now, Minimum said some things. One of the things I got caught up with this garage is I wanted a big garage. But my town is undergoing gentrification. So I was not allowed to build the 7-story skyscraper that I wanted. Indoor firing range, bowling alley, panic room. No. Maximum height for a garage in my town is 24 feet. Maximum height for the sidewall is 9 feet. And if you're over 13 feet in height, you got to stand on one leg and hop around in a circle. Then you have to make sure that the roof line, this angle here, is exactly the same as your house. And the roofing material has to be exactly the same. I wanted to build a steel roof. Steel roofs are cool. They last 50 years. Nope. Not unless I put one on my house first, and they wouldn't approve that. So it's asphalt shingles. Plus, They had some things they had required. They got minimum in my town is actually an 18-inch snow load. The roof has to be able to hold its own weight and 18 inches of snow. That's some weight. So I think it's actually good. I said 7 feet before. I think we figured out from the math that it's like 5 feet. We really over-engineered it because I couldn't get the 2x6s, so I got 12-inch I-joists. Now, the plan for that is 12 inches. It's 12 inches of insulation. I've got about R35 in there. It's better than any of the houses have around. Crap hits the fan, I can live in my garage. Plus, I put some skylights in for ventilation because it's going to get warm up there in the summer. And this is the coup de grace. I love this thing. This picture window, it's actually 8 feet long and 4 feet, 42 inches this way. It's a patio door. My dad got a patio door from his brother's rental property, and it was 1982, I think, salvaged it. And part of it had failed. But this part was fine. So he put it in the barn and kept it. He just put it up on blocks so nothing bad happened. It's 2 5/8-inch panes of thermal glass. Theoretically, there's argon between them. After 20 years, there isn't. Anyway, it's a 100-pound window. But it's so cool. It looks really creepy when you drive up at night and you still see the ladder right behind the glass. And one of the other things I had to comply with is I could have no windows facing any neighbor's property because I might peep on them. Now, if you've met my neighbors, you know this won't happen. So this side can't have a wall. You can just barely see the stairway coming up there. I can't have a window over there, but I can have skylights because you'd need a ladder to look out them at the neighbor's house. And this actually faces my driveway. And one of the reasons that I took this approach, keep the building and keep all the electrical, because the electrical is a fire hazard and it's terrible, but electrical code is really nasty in my town. And I know that if they look at it, they'll fail it. So I'm not touching it because it's existing. If it's existing, it's fine. If I blink at it, I got to put new safe stuff in. That'll come this summer. No doubt I will start once I get the thing finished inside it. So now, I built this thing. These are 18-inch floor trusses here. I put them on 24-inch centers. I really only need to do, I think, 36-inch centers, meaning 3 feet between each one to do the maximum load. I'm good for a load of 90 pounds per square foot on the upstairs. And that's where the guy said, what are you going to do, park a Humvee up there? Maybe, if I can figure out how to get it up. We're actually looking, there's a ridge beam up here. Big board runs along the top. And, crap, I'm going to run out of time. We're actually looking at putting a winch on that so we can just winch a motorcycle up. We can remove a sheet of floor, pull it up, put the floor down, set it in place. That's probably going to be 3-4 years. My wife is looking at this going, you spend enough time on the garage. You better start expanding this house. Come on, I want to spend more time in the garage. Exactly. And the funny thing is, I met a guy when I was working on this project. He drove by and said, you should do this and this and this. I said, why? Said, well, that's what I did, so I can have all the climbing harnesses in my garage. Okay. So what we actually did, the plan initially was to leave the old roof in place when we put the trusses in. So we'd remove some roof boards, slide a truss in so we never had to take the ceiling because that's the only place the electrical was. So if I took the ceiling out, that meant I touched the electrical. So we would remove shingles and roof boards and slide this in. And this was the plan, to do all of them this way. And then we'd have this roof to stand on while we put up this 430-pound ridge beam. That plan fell apart quick. This is what's called a 412 pitch roof. Goes up 4 feet for every 12 it goes in. Garage is 24 feet long. These are 1.5 feet high. Little math will tell you that I have to remove half of the roof boards on each side to put the trusses in, making the top this wonderful little slippery slide thing. You'd walk around and it'd rock under you. So we gave up on that. But here, see this piece of chipboard? We couldn't get it down between the rafters. There was no way to get it out of the garage before we started the project. It came with the garage. So we had to pick it up and set it on top of trusses as we moved others in. And this is also where we found out the nice uniform 24-inch trusses, the garage is not uniformly 24 inches wide. I measured at the front and the back. It's 24 feet 4 inches in the middle, so it's bowed a little. We patched that in. It's not a problem. Okay, this is how we got them up. This is just a 2x6, and the middle guy balancing it on the stick. We carried him into the yard and threw him up, and then, this is me, looking like Bill Murray from Caddyshack. We'd get it a part way, and then I would run up the ladder as fast as I could and push it in the rest of the way. Then, once it was balanced on the edges, then we'd run up with the screw gun, and we'd cinch the ceiling into those trusses. Then we could pull the nails out of the old 2x6s that had been stretched across and pull those out. Those went into this pile to save, because this thing was made with some insanely good lumber, mostly fir. And after 30 years, it's never going to warp. It's dry, it's great, it's high quality stuff. A lot of the lumber is actually 2 inches by 4 inches. When you buy a 2x4 now, it's 3.5 by 1 and however much they're going to screw you. And then this is also, OSHA compliance is optional on do-it-yourself products. No one's getting paid, so the safety rules don't apply. Notice the careful hard hat usage, and this is actually my dad, and my mother is down here yelling, "Rod, be careful!" What's that?
You don't need to tie off at 10 feet.
No, okay, I didn't know that. That's cool. Yeah, 10 feet won't kill you. Okay, so saving the existing ceiling and electrical. All right, so we had to rip the whole ceiling off, a whole roof. Then we had to put flooring up so we could build more. The trusses are in, and this is actually, there's a little notch here at the bottom for making sure they all line up nice. It's a piece of 2x4 we saved. Because some of this lumber, we had 10-inch wide boards, an inch thick, that were 16 feet long. Just beautiful stuff. It ended up getting used sheathing. This is going to be my ridge beam, 2 of these. They're 24 feet long, they're 18 inches high, and they weigh 200 pounds apiece, and we're going to use 2 of them. So we did the smart thing. Called the guy with the crane. Guy drove up with the crane, he looked at us and said, "Nope, see ya." Huh? What? Oh, crap, that's a power line. No, wait, that's the cable line, that's the phone line, that's the power line. Yeah, the cable line is actually propped up on a piece of board because we got tired of stumbling over it. We knocked it down later this day. So we can't get a crane in. So I call another guy with a crane. And it's maybe been an hour, and I call him up, and he says, "You that Anderson guy over in St. Louis Park?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "No, Joe already talked to me. We can't get a crane in there." So I'm thinking about this, thinking, people built heavy crap before they had cranes. So what do? Well, yeah. These are actually, oh, crud. How'd I do that?
You hit previous.
Did I really?
Yes, you did.
Okay. The touchpads and me do not get along. I should have plugged a mouse in. Okay. These are called microlams. They're thin pieces of wood laminated together. They're ridiculously strong. They're much stronger than real lumber. Unless you lay them like this, that compromises structural integrity. Watch every construction site, they lay them on their sides. The manufacturer says specifically, you do this, you void all warranties. They have to be on edge. I told the lumberyard that, and they laughed at me. If we'd had a problem with it, we'd know by now. Code of Hammurabi, buddy. Okay. We built a siege engine. So, seriously, we're thinking, how do we lift this thing up? We'll build a crane in place. And, my dad says, God, if only we could get a couple of sawhorses under it. And I'm thinking, well, lifting strength is kind of the same as pulling and pushing. As long as it's vertical, it's fine. So I went to Menards, and for $8, I got a couple of clamps rated at 500 pounds to make a sawhorse. Then we just put 14-foot legs on it. Yeah. How do you build 14-foot legs? It involves a lot of swearing. Because you've got 5-foot pieces of 2x4 up here, and then you've got 9-foot pieces, 9.5-foot pieces of 2x6, and you stick them together with a nail gun, which involves one guy kind of holding them together while you're both wobbling around at the top of ladders going dunk, 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 dunk. You nail them from both sides. And then we tried, this is actually the first try, there's a yellow thing here, where we're trying to bring it up with a nylon webbing strap. They stretch a lot. I mean, a really lot. Like you crank on it for an hour and it moves up an inch, and it's sitting there twitching like a can of beer that's been in a paint mixer. So we aborted that. It cost us $20 to rent a cable come-along, which is a metal ratcheting device, runs up a steel cable. And we pulled them up. And now here's the bad thing. This is my little framework that goes around that front window. That was neat. And our posts. These are 10 feet up. 2 little posts, 400 pounds of weight. Where could the problem possibly be? Everything's inherently stable. Just ask a unicycle rider. So, we built this thing. We got it up. And no sooner do we get up and nailed it in place than we get like a half-mile-an-hour breeze. And this thing is doing this samba up here. I went, wow, those posts are 3 2x4s bonded together. Really strong. Up and down. So that means you got to scramble and get I-joists in. And that was a 3-man job. I leaned a lot on my dad. Can't keep him from climbing on things. It's like, 400 pounds unstable, let me sit on it. I blame my kids for giving me gray hair, but it's my dad. And this is where the framing gun really came in, because it's 16 nails per bracket. Good luck doing it with a hammer. While this guy, who's insanely strong, he was tossing these 100-pound I-joists around. I swear he juggled them. It's 5'5", it's easy for him. But while he's holding them, you go whack, 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 put all these nails in. It got much more stable as we went on. It really did. I mean, you start getting a half a dozen of these things up, and then we started sheathing. Now, am I out of time now? No, I have 10 minutes. Cool. This is the decking for the roofing. And here you can see we've got all of them up. And this is really pretty stable. The ridge beam isn't moving around at all, side to side, but it's still doing front to back a little bit. Because the modern roof design doesn't have a lot of rigidity until it's done. It's like building something out of Legos. Once all the pieces are in, cool! Until then, my 4-year-old screaming, it fell apart. So this stuff, once we got the first row of plywood up, man, that really tightened things up. This is what I walked on. These were the pieces of lumber we didn't have another use for. Now, my piece of advice on these is to nail them down completely. No matter how hard it is to get them up after. Because, I had 3-inch nails, it's a 2-inch board. I'm thinking a 1/2-inch hold, and then I still got a little head to pull them up again, right? Right about, I would say 20 minutes after this picture is taken. I went up to check the little opening we have for a ridge vent, so we can flow air from here to here. Helps cold air run along the roof so that the snow doesn't melt on it. I was up here, and this one, I guess I hadn't run the nails in quite far enough because it went ping and fired down in the lawn, which Mr. Gravity and St. Darwin say, down you go. So my foot caught on this one, and it went ping, and I stuck my hand over here to where the hole had been. But that's now covered by a skylight. So my hand slides off the skylight, and I'm flat, and I'm thinking, all right, I got another one. And I hear, ka-ping, off that one. Hey, neat. And from below, I hear my wife say, stop throwing lumber, the kids are down here. And I'm going flat, and I'm on my tool belt. Okay, I'm thinking, it's only a 9-foot drop. This one held. I took every single one of those things off before that. Now, this is the point at which I hired a guy. Okay, I hired 2 guys. Because I had the shingles and everything else, after I popped those stands out, I'm not going up there again. Changed pants and everything. $800, took 2 guys, 5 hours. 5 hours to roof the whole thing. They did everything proper, code compliant. It was beautiful. I was upstairs working in here. There's no wall here. This is just open. I was up there working, and it was like being shot at because they had air nailers. And they would fire in short 3-round bursts because it's 3 nails per shingle. So bang! And I knew I was getting a little close to the edge, and one goes ping right here under the roof. I think I'll step over here. 1.5 or 1.25 roofing nails, 1/2-inch decking. Captain Science says that's at least a ½ inch to stick through, which isn't enough to kill you, just enough to make you bleed. Scared the crap out of you. All right, now this is the inside view looking at the south. I have a 10-foot ceiling in my garage. I only have an 8-foot in my house. And there's no obstructions because these are so blame strong. Here's the framework for the skylight, and these are the roof boards I saved off of the original roof. We cut them down and threw them in. Made it really, really strong. That got so rigid. These 2x4s are all the old rafters. So there is no new lumber in that wall. Oh, wait, yeah, there is this piece of lumber. I got it from the neighbors. They were expanding their house. Whenever somebody's building, they got a dumpster. Ask them if you can have stuff out of the dumpster because they got to pay to get rid of it. And they throw away the best stuff in the world. They'll throw away a 2x4 or a 2x6 sheet of plywood because carpenters make a lot of money. I mean, okay, maybe not Halliburton money, but it turns out that an $8 sheet of plywood isn't worth messing with when you got a decent carpenter making $40-50 an hour. It's cheaper to buy a new sheet, make the cut, do it easy. So that is plywood that the neighbors gave to me. The guys thought I was absolutely nuts, and they really enjoyed the project, and they kept bringing me stuff. You want this? Yeah! Here's the inside view of the door. You like my hinges? We put a fourth one up for symmetry. And these are the built-in dresser. I got 3 of them. They pulled them out of the house. They were going to chuck them. So I guess I can keep clothes up here. These are brackets we actually fabricated out of 1/4-inch steel. And then drilled lots of holes so we could put lots of nails and screws in. And let's see. Oh, yeah, this is the dumbest thing I ever did. I left the existing wall because I didn't want to tear the sheathing and the shakes off. That meant I had to have like an 11-degree angle here and a 37.5-degree angle here. And then I had to cut a 2-inch piece of wood to fill out because this is a 2x6 and this is a 2x4. It was really putsy. The guys were so right. I should have scraped it and built new. But it would have been a lot more expensive. The voice from above says, feedback is good. This is also all salvage. This was the piece we saw before that I couldn't get out of the attic of the garage because it was too big. We now pass things through the window. We open it up. It's huge, so you can put anything through there. 3, 4 Jimmy Hoffas. Now, this goes on the outside of your sheathing. It's required by a code everywhere. It's an air infiltration barrier to keep cold air from sliding through. I don't know what good it necessarily does. Air doesn't really go through wood either. But the one thing that it does give you is Tyvek is really flammable. So, buy fire insurance. So there's my cedar shakes, and holy crap, are cedar shakes expensive. They'll last you 100 years. Last you 150 years if you take care of them. Hey, where'd that go? I'm missing a picture. Damn it. All right. So we want slide 20. Before I started this, I was originally planning to do this off my web page. And apparently I didn't. There we go. This is the cool thing. The neighbors bought fiber cement siding. So I got to take all of the siding off their garage and their house for free. At least $4,000 it saved me. Yeah, and I got only good shakes because all the broken ones I got to put in their dumpster. And they thanked me for it. I actually found a structural problem with their house when I was pulling shakes off. I pulled a shake off and a chunk of stud this long came with it. I said, wow, good thing this isn't a support wall. So yeah, this is actually where I'm at now, and I'll paint it this summer. Now, I'm lying because the south side actually doesn't have shakes on it yet. It just has Tyvek because it got cold. And when it gets cold, who wants to be hanging off the 28-foot ladder you borrowed from your neighbor? There we go. Now, that cold roof thing, and I'll be done, I swear, in 3 minutes, needs air chutes. They're $1.25 for a 4-foot length at Menards. $1.25, that's a lot of money. I got these chunks of styrofoam insulation free from the dumpster, cut them into place, and stuck them up with screws and glue where I had. I made my own chutes. That was the building inspector's suggestion. It's like, you could use that insulation. Oh, love you guys. So, homebrew air chutes, which have, most of that silver stuff has an R value of like 5 or 6 by itself. It's expensive stuff. Let's see what else we got here. Here you can see I've started putting in regular insulation. Fiberglass, I like fiberglass. It lasts forever. It also gives you really itchy skin. Down here is a mixture of loose fill cellulose. It's basically newspaper treated with stuff so bugs and things don't eat it and it doesn't rot. And styrofoam packing peanuts. Because all you need with insulation is something to keep air from moving easily. Hey, styrofoam packing peanuts, better than nothing. And they're banned soon, so you're going to have to pay to get rid of them. So this is actually, that one I needed a demonstration. Now, we built a pulley mechanism for opening the door because it was way too hard to do it by yourself. It's a good way to lose fingers. So big project in progress. There's a lot more pictures here. No actual pictures of injuries because no animals or children were harmed in the making of this project, despite my best efforts yet. Yeah. We've had a few good scares, and all the scars on my head have healed. That's why I wear a hat. I ripped it open a couple of times. But I got the presentation there. There's updates. I will put, and what do I got to do in the future? I got to put up some stairs. I just got a ladder and an opening right now, which is fine for bringing stuff up, but they won't pass my framing inspection because I put stairs on the original plans. So soon they come. I figure probably another 3 or 4 months. I probably would have been working on it this weekend, but I want to come and brag about what I did. And I've just about finished insulating. I'm about 80% done on the northeast, all of the roof and the north wall's done. South wall, I still need to get insulation for that. And that's one of the things I will say when you buy supplies, it's tempting to buy them all at once. That's a lot of stuff to trip over. Try to plan out so you do not have infinite amounts of supplies everywhere. I lost most of the use of my garage for all summer. And the one other good thing about this project, I never took my tools out of my garage. Everything stayed set up and working. We damaged nothing. My wife even parked her car in the garage most of the summer, and you do not want to scratch her car. So, I ran out of time for questions. Verbal diarrheic, I guess. But feel free to track me down and ask me any questions or abuse me and say you really are nuts after this. Yeah.
Do you have a website?
It's right there.
Some people might be listening.
Oh, good point. www.angelar.com/Jeremy. That's my website. Find out way more than you want to know about me. Go to the garage_rebuild directory. It's on the left-hand side under the project section, which is remarkably barren. So, yeah, but it's there. You can also get to this presentation at www.angelar.com/Jeremy/NOTACON with some of these pictures. Much bigger pictures at the other site, so have a big screen. Most of them are 1024 by 768 or 1280 by 1024, and I can get you bigger if you want.
Okay, I think that's all the time. We're going to try to get back on schedule here.
Thank you.